Coming up next on Tech News Today, Microsoft held a big Windows event and showed off a number of premium products as well as some cool software. Also, Google Fiber is on pause, and that makes Sean Hollister from CNET sad. IBM's Watson is on par for 1 billion users by 2018, and its deal with OnStar will help it get there. Apple delayed the release of its AirPods, probably because it lost one while jogging, and Groupon gets a hot deal on Living Social. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1628, recorded Wednesday, October 26th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we talk about some of the important things that happen in today's world of technology, and we talk about them with people who are passionate about technology. I'm Megan Morrone.
I'm Jason Howell. Passion of technology sitting at an 8.5 today. How about you?
Always a 10.
Always a 10?
Yes.
On a to 10 scale or to 100 scale?
Good question. Always on a 10 scale. I'm
Okay.
always passionate. I never lose my passion for technology.
Excellent. Neither do I. Actually, no, we've got some great stuff to talk about, and I'm really excited. A little bit later, we're going to talk about Microsoft's announcements because, wow, kind of blew everybody away, I think. But before we get there, let's talk about something that we might never have access to. Google Access announced that it is placing its high-speed fiber rollout of Google Fiber to a number of new regions on hold. Joining us to discuss this announcement is Sean Hollister from CNET. How's it going, Sean?
Very well. And you, thanks?
We are doing fantastic, although maybe a little bit bummed because I just kind of had it in my mind that at some point fiber was going to be such a success that it was going to roll out all over the world, or at least all over the U.S., and eventually get up to Petaluma. But it sounds like San Francisco and many other areas aren't going to be getting Google Fiber anytime soon. Explain what Google announced exactly.
Well, Google said it was going to place these areas on pause. It says it was going, in a blog post, Google said it was going to pause operations in quite a number of places where it previously said it would roll out this fiber to the home service with the gigabit internet speeds that I've been hoping for ages now. And the question is, what does pause really mean? Well, because back when Verizon said it was going to pause Fios rollouts to the West Coast, including San Jose, where I live, pause meant they were done. It meant they were not going to bring it out to any new regions. And I figure the same thing is happening here. And that's what my source suggested might be the case. They said nothing was for certain. They're still evaluating fiber. But what it looks like is Google Access is going to try to deliver that access through wireless because it's faster and easier than rolling out, big, thick fiber optic cables that require them to fight with AT&T over whether they can, put them up on poles, which is what they were having trouble with in Nashville recently.
Right. Yeah, sometimes you pause the show and then you forget about it and you leave the room and you come back later and it turned off for you. Maybe that's what's going to happen here.
Right.
They're going to return. They're going to be like, all right, we're ready to do this. Nope, it's too late. They already did it.
Yeah, or maybe you lose $859 billion and then you decide not to go back to it.
Maybe, yeah. That actually sounds more likely. So there's also some layoffs that were announced, some restructuring, the CEOs stepping aside. I mean, all of this kind of, I guess what I was trying to figure out, and it sounds like you have been too with the using pause in the announcement, is whether all of this together signals a new direction or kind of a halting. I suppose it seems like the fiber aspect of Google Fiber is going away, but there's a different direction that they might potentially take. Is that right?
Yeah, I just wonder what it really means, because this, on the one hand, wireless is super fast now. Wireless is so much better than it's ever been. My LTE connection, my smartphone is faster than a lot of landline connections people have around the United States. So on the one hand, I really like wireless. I think wireless is a great thing to have and a great thing to keep moving with. But for Google to say, hey, we're going to try this wireless thing, it's not like Google hasn't already been trying this wireless thing. They've had experimental Wi-Fi internet service in Mountain View, for instance. They've tried it a couple of different times over the years, never really stuck, and it doesn't feel like it would be fiber anymore. You know,
Right.
The idea of fiber is we're going to take a fiber optic cable, we're going to bring it right up to your house. You're going to get everything that big pipe can deliver, all that gigabit internet speed. And if it's anything less than to your home, then it doesn't really feel like it's fiber. AT&T's had fiber to the node for a while, but they bring it through copper lines to your house. And once it tries to go through those, those copper connections that can't hold as much bandwidth, you no longer have the same kind of connection. It doesn't feel the same anymore.
Right.
So what about the places that already have fiber? What's going to happen to them?
They should be safe for now. The hardest part in rolling out fiber is actually physically delivering those cables to the homes, fighting with the other telecommunications companies to get them up the poles and that kind of thing. So they've already made those investments there. They've already figured out those arrangements. If the fiber's there, it's going to stay. That's what they've said. That's what makes sense. But in places where they haven't, they're not only pausing their operations, quote unquote, they're also pausing their offices. They're laying off those employees, and the CEO who's stepping down. He wrote the blog post about all this, and he said right in the blog post that he is stepping down as well.
And that does not sound very good at all. So what I find so striking about this is during the first earnings call after the Alphabet restructuring happened last year, CFO Ruth Porat mentioned that fiber was one of the top performers. And then this happens. I mean, what do you think has drastically happened in the last year? Is it just that costs? I don't know. What do you think?
There's two things happening. One is AT&T, the incumbent player in the market who has access to those poles, written into local law, written into their contracts with local municipalities, and already has these wires of other kinds on the ground already. They said they were going to compete, and they've started to roll out a gigabit service in many places as well. So this big incumbents, throwing some meaningful competition into there. It's great for us who are in the areas where AT&T is going to deliver this connection, but not necessarily great for Google because Google doesn't have enough of an advantage there. The other thing is maybe the CFO wasn't telling the truth about how well it was doing. Apparently, there was a big report in the information saying that they just couldn't get the uptake that they wanted to in these markets.
Well, anyone, most people complain about their internet service provider, whether it be Comcast or, whoever else. And we often complain because it's the only choice that we have. And so Google Fiber stopping their advancement to these other places, what does that do for competition, and how is that going to look for the consumers?
That's what I really fear, honestly. I don't know about you folks, but I live in a duopoly. It's Comcast or AT&T here. Because nobody else can really meaningfully deliver anything. Even when you go for a third-party ISP, like a Sonic.net is pretty nice in the Bay Area. Most of what they're doing, they're offering it on top of AT&T's wires. So it's no faster than AT&T and limited to whatever the AT&T service could deliver to you anyhow. So I feel like with Google backing off, I wonder if AT&T is going to push so hard for gigabit. It may not bother either to push as far as it could. And we're back where we were before in regions where Google Fiber hasn't rolled out.
Yeah. Well, it's a big bummer. I mean, I think it was like 4 months ago or so where Google announced that they had acquired WebPass, which is kind of, I'm guessing, is at the core of the wireless delivery mechanism here. You were anticipating fiber. Does WebPass technology, does that give you at least a little shred of hope?
I'm bullish on wireless because wireless has just gotten so much better, and they are claiming that they can do gigabit over wireless. Now, the question is, gigabit per household, gigabit per person, or a gigabit per neighborhood. I'm not really sure. A lot of these services, they'll tell you that you can deliver a certain amount of bandwidth, but they mean a certain amount of bandwidth divided by however many people sign on. They've got to deal with congestion. When they're talking about wireless, they've got to deal with interference. I haven't tried WebPass myself. I don't think it's been rolled out in many areas. I believe it's at Cupertino. So I'm hoping to get to try it soon, and maybe it'll blow me away. That's what we can all hope for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's our only choice at this point, unless they unpause the DVR of sorts. Sean Hollister with CNET, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to have you on. Where can people follow your work online?
CNET.com. That's where you can go. I'll be there.
At Starfire2258 on Twitter. Thanks again, man.
Yes.
Take care.
We'll talk to you soon.
General Motors and IBM would like to know what you plan to do while you're not driving your autonomous car. The company hopes you'll eventually spend this time buying more stuff. The Wall Street Journal reports that GM's OnStar is bringing in the smarts from IBM's Watson to figure out what you'd like to buy and then to help you buy it. Currently, OnStar offers turn-by-turn navigation, access to human help desks, diagnostics, and more. But the new version will also allow marketers to offer you location-based products and services while you're in your car. So based on all the secret stuff it knows about you, it might gently guide you to get gas for your car or diapers for your baby or pills and booze for you, Jason.
Pull over and get some pills. You need some. I can tell. You're driving not quite erratic enough. I actually, to some degree, kind of think this is kind of cool. Like, for it to help me with, failing to fill up my gas tank and reminding me that I need to do this. This is something that I actually need help with. I'm not very good at that.
There's usually most cars come with there's a little picture of a gas tank and then there's an E that means empty.
Yeah, and then at some point there's like a light that comes on.
Yes.
And I'm just, for some reason, I'm very good at not thinking to look at that.
So you want someone to talk to you, and you'd be willing to hand over your privacy for that.
I don't know. I do see how this could be really annoying, though. Like, you're driving along, and it's like, hey, you should stop and get a burger because they're having a sale. You get 2 for 1. I don't know what the extent of this might be. So a little bit of that kind of marketing while you're sitting in the driver's seat is a little scary, but I could see some total benefit to it as well.
Yeah, their partners right now include Exxon, MasterCard, and a parking lot directory called Parkopedia. I think we've talked about that before. iHeartMedia and Glimpse, which is a location-aware messaging network. It'll start with all 2017 GM models. I think the biggest problem with all of these in-car dashboards, they don't often work. They're glitchy. Sometimes they rely on Bluetooth. Sometimes, whatever they rely on, they don't work every time, and therefore people are frustrated with them. I mean,
Sure.
I found, when I was looking for a new car, I was like, oh, what's the, who has CarPlay? Like, what can I, and then when I actually looked into CarPlay, it's not that great. And even Consumer Reports, CarPlay is in the Honda Civic, and they actually took away their recommended buy mark next to the Honda Civic because the infotainment dashboard was so glitchy. So it's important to people that this stuff works.
Well, and Apple is working on this nut and trying to crack this nut right now, in fact, because we've talked about that in many weeks, kind of giving up on the actual car aspect and focusing on the in-car stuff happening behind the scenes. So that's good. Kind of an extension of this story is, and I think this story kind of came out of a talk by IBM chief Virginia Rometty with Wall Street Journal. She also said today that Watson is on track for 1 billion users by 2018. The GM deal obviously is one way to extend the reach of this, but Watson, she says, is designed to spur growth. They've got declines in things like servers, software, and computing services. So, AI is the hotness right now. Watson's been doing it for a while. We've been hearing about Watson for years compared to, it was like the early bird in this whole AI game when it was literally playing on Jeopardy. So this is one way to extend that. Doesn't have voice commands, which you would kind of expect out of like an info, kind of like an inside the car system like this, but they say they're going to get that by late 2017 with the OnStar Go. So not too much longer to wait for that. With 25 million registered users, the cloud bookmarking service called Pocket is now looking to move beyond its read it later roots and into offering recommendations for its users. It's been doing a little bit of this so far, but they plan to expand that. What Pocket hopes will set it apart from other similar offerings from Facebook, companies like Facebook and Twitter, is the company's deep knowledge of what links and articles are being shared and engaged with most by its users, along with details like how far into the article those users are reading through, how long they spend reading, and whether or not they choose to share it with other users of Pocket once they're done. Pocket's going to offer the best performing links inside topic areas like technology, food, fitness, and a bunch of other ones to kind of make quality content easier to find. I've seen little. Are you a Pocket user? You ever
I
use
have
it?
tried it before, but my problem is, it's like save it for later. Like there is never a later. Like I have so much to read anyway.
Yeah,
and if I
that's
put
true.
it, like I went and when, I was researching this story, I was like, look at all these stories I pocketed that I never read.
Someday you'll get to those.
No, I will never get to those.
Of course, they'll be 3, 4, 5 years old by the time you do,
Yes.
and it'll be totally old news.
And do they need them? Because I looked at the recommendations. The first recommendation for me was a story about how things you can stop doing, like flossing and washing your jeans.
Yeah,
It recommended not. Did you get that? Did you get that article? Too?
I didn't, but I've heard that, and I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I'm sorry.
But you just wipe them off and
No.
hang them outside, and they're clean.
No, it doesn't work like that. Whoever keeps writing this article or this thing about jeans and not washing them, you're wrong.
Right. When you're
Anyways.
better off not reading that article about not washing your jeans. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
so I appreciate that Pocket wants to find me better, more high quality stories than say like my Facebook friends or, but I use Nuzzle and I love Nuzzle.
Nuzzle's
and
great, too.
that's all I need.
Nuzzle, yeah, exactly. Nuzzle is actually a really good comparison. Pocket is also considering offering recommendations on publisher sites, which if you've been to sites and you see a little thing with these articles that you see on all the sites with a little caption that says Taboola on it or Outbrain or whatever, and the articles are always just like, why do I feel compelled to click that? But why do I care?
Yes.
I could see Pocket doing that way better than what I've seen out of those things, just based on its kind of network. Because if you're using Pocket regularly, I use it regularly a lot for like creation of shows, because see a story, I mark it for later, and then I read it when I get started to work. But in using that, I have seen a few of the kind of recommended articles or the best ofs that appear there, and they seem to be flagged pretty appropriately. Like almost always I'll see that, and I've either already read it and because it was really great, or it is completely compelling to me. So I could see Pocket doing really well in this, and I want them to succeed because I don't know, I just think they have a really good product.
Now, a few quick Apple stories before we get to our Windows extravaganza. First, Apple says those wireless AirPods will not debut this week as previously promised. The company told TechCrunch they needed a little more time. They contend that the early response to the AirPods has been incredible. Incredible. I don't know. That doesn't mean good nor bad. They won't ship the product, they say, until it is finished. So it's supposed to come at the end of October. We are, of course, nearing the end of October. It still says end of October on the website, but they've told many sources that you're not getting them.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of people were, well, of the people who actually want them, because it seems like people are pretty evenly split between I want them and no way, those are ugly, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But the people that really wanted them, I think a lot of people were expecting that as part of announcement tomorrow, it would be like, and, releasing today, the AirPods. I'm guessing they just lost one on the way to shipping them.
Probably.
And they had to
That's
go back to
probably-
the drawing
Yeah.
board.
That's probably what happened. And finally, John Gruber posted on Daring Fireball earlier this week that little birds have told him that iMessage for Android mock-ups have been circling around Apple. So while some were ready to dismiss the possibility of Apple's message platform on an Android phone, it should not be totally ruled out. I suspect this is still highly unlikely. Apple doesn't often offer free software on other platforms when it's not about them making money. Of course, Apple Music is on Android, but that's because it's a subscription service.
Yeah.
iTunes was on Windows, but that was because you could buy music through it.
Yeah.
So it's just not, in general, their way. So I don't know. If you're interested in this, read Gruber's post. It's really... he makes a good division between two kinds of iPhone users, which I hadn't really thought about it. There's iPhone users like myself who are in the Google ecosystem completely. You know, I use Gmail, I use Google Calendar. You know, instead of just Apple, you know, the live photos, I use their Motion Stills app. Like I'm totally all in on the Google apps, and yet I'm not going to give up my iPhone. And then there's the other iOS users who don't think about those Google programs. They don't want to, they just use everything that's installed. And so, and you know, both of those people really use iMessage. And often that's the only overlap. Or FaceTime.
Yeah, I thought that was a great article too, especially when you consider, and I don't know if this would be the case for you, but I mean, iMessage as like a killer app for the iOS platform. I mean, if there is a number of people using iPhones, iOS devices, but they're using primarily Google apps and everything, if iMessages is a great enough program, as it seems to be, everyone who's on iOS, you know, seems to love that kind of integrated messaging platform. If that existed on Google, Apple would probably risk losing a lot of people over, you know, in that regard. It's like, well, this could be the one thing that keeps me here because iMessage is so great. I live my life in Google. Now that it's over there, I could try it out, you know, whereas if that didn't exist on Android, they might be less likely to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, what John Gruber says is that those people like me are the most likely people to buy a Pixel. You know, the people that use, you know, Gmail and, you know, or Inbox, that we're also the same market that would be like, hey, you know what, that Pixel looks pretty nice. I think I want it. Whereas, you know, the people that use all the default apps are probably not going to get a Pixel. But he also says that group of people is so small, it wouldn't really make a dent. But I don't know. Apple definitely needs to keep selling iPhones.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see iMessage on Android as an Android user. And with, you know, in my opinion, Android messaging is kind of a sloppy mess in many ways. I do wonder, and what do you think about this? If iMessage did exist on Android, would iMessage users on Android still be green bubbles?
Oh,
is the green bubble an Android user, or is the green bubble a non-iMessage user?
And I try not to judge you green bubbles, and yet I do.
I know people do.
I do.
I know people do. You judge me every time I send. Actually, we do more Slack than we do text messaging.
I mean, iMessage is fine. It's fine. And I'm not talking about from a security perspective, because I'm sure everyone who's concerned about it is like, get off iMessage. It's not secure. It's fine. I go where the people are.
Yeah.
And I use, it's not a different app for me to open up to text you in your phone number. You know, like I can't text you lasers, which makes me really sad.
Me too.
But
I like lasers.
But yeah, I go where the people are.
Yeah, understood.
After the break, Microsoft announced the Windows 10 Creators Update coming next spring. Find out what that means. But first, let's take a minute to thank Epson, the sponsor of this episode. Epson's revolutionary cartridge-free EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer does not use ink cartridges. It features an amazing, innovative, refillable ink tank that earned it the title of CES 2016 Innovation Awards honoree. No more out-of-ink frustration. It includes up to 2 years of ink. That's equal to 11,000 black pages or 8,500 color pages. You can save up to 80% on ink with low-cost replacement bottles. It's also powered by Precision Core printing technology. It has auto two-sided printing and a 30-page auto document feeder, easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value. With Epson's EcoTank line of printers, you'll have the freedom to print without running out of ink. The Epson EcoTank system was named the 2016 Small Biz Windows Printer of the Year. Visit epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home, office, or your work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the Epson EcoTank printers. That's epson.com/EcoTank. And we thank Epson for their support. Microsoft put on a 2-hour-plus theatrical performance today with soaring music, lyrical speeches, and the announcement of the next version of Windows 10 and the unveiling of its first ever desktop PC, the $3,000 all-in-one Surface Studio with a 28-inch Pixel Sense display. And for only $99 extra, you can also get the hockey puck-shaped knob called the Surface Dial that you can use as a mouse or is a dial on the screen of the device. It adjusts everything from your graphics program to the volume on Spotify. The Surface Studio looks a little bit like an iMac, but let's be fair here, it looks way better. What do you think, Jason?
I think this is a pretty sexy piece of technology, if I do say so myself. And I do not like using that word when it comes to technology, but
You did.
But I just did, because I don't know what else to say. I mean, Microsoft, and we're going to talk about all their announcements, but this was a crazy announcement, and this particular all-in-one is really, really nice. Like they timed the announcement of all this stuff so perfectly with Apple's kind of computer announcement coming up tomorrow, because basically they've forced a comparison that's going to last at least the next week or two and stay in the media, and it's going to be really hard to top this all-in-one. I love how the screen kind of folds. Well, you'll watch it right here.
Yeah.
So effortlessly folds back for those times when you need to draft something, or I don't know. It's just a really cool looking piece of technology. The only downside, obviously, is that it's very expensive, $3,000. But for the right market, and there is definitely a market for this. I mean, this answers a lot of people's things on their wish list.
Does it?
I think so. I think for professionals, absolutely. And Apple does a lot of things right when it comes to design. Creating products around design, kind of like a design forward approach. But IBM's doing some, I think, really great things in catering specifically to creatives, to professionals, and not just in a spreadsheety sort of way. I mean, these are really creative devices. I think they're going to be used as such, and people are willing to pay a price for that if it answers that problem.
I will be really curious, because I don't know. I know that this was shown off in much the way the iPad Pro was shown off last year, and we all said, oh, creators really need that. I really need that. And then unless you are one of these very specific creators, then you don't. It's just all, I want it, and that's fine. It's fine to want that. You could even get the $3,500 one if you want. That's the 6th generation Intel Core i7, 1 terabyte SSD, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 2 gigabyte GPU. So yeah, I don't know. We will see. What I thought was that Microsoft really felt like moving into the enterprise space, and they felt it seemed like they felt comfortable there. They were launching that Slack for work kind of clone. They were just doing a lot of stuff. They're like, okay, that makes sense. Like, they're not trying to be flashy anymore. They're not trying to be someone they're not. They're just really serving enterprise customers. But this was a Windows event. It wasn't a Microsoft event. So, but it just really seemed like, hey, they're really trying to be like Apple. It's the day before Apple. So I don't know. I mean, we will see. Like, I know that the Surface caused a lot of people, the Surface that was released last year caused a lot of people issues. It wasn't like a much beloved laptop. So we will see.
Yeah. I don't know if they're trying to be like Apple, in air quotes. I just think that they're paying more of an attention, and they've been doing this more and more over the last couple of years, more of an attention to the design, because by and large, the dialogue around Microsoft and Windows for a very long time has been stale and boring. And now they're placing emphasis on this. $3,000 for a device, for a desktop PC, absolutely is not a PC for every single person. But there is a market for higher end all-in-one, don't have to think about it, it just does what it does really well type of devices, products. And I think that they've catered to that. I don't know how successful that approach is going to be, but I really like that they've kind of elevated their attention to design. But yeah.
Well, they also announced the Surface Book i7, which they claim is pound for pound the most powerful laptop out there. It has 16 hours of battery life in laptop mode. It's a laptop tablet hybrid. It contains the Intel Core i7 processor and will cost you $2,400, and that one ships November 10th. So it weighs 3.6 pounds. That's including the keyboard, 13.5-inch pixel sense display, 2 gigabyte NVIDIA GTX 965M inside. So again, I think, and there are definitely people who love their Surface. The average person, I'm not so sure. I mean, I was at a dinner party on Sunday, and one of my daughter's 13-year-old friends had a Surface on his computer on his homework desk. I was like, "Is that a Surface?" And all the parents were like, "What's a Surface? What is that? Is that some kind of Mac?" No, it's not.
Because it looks like a Mac.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, I remember when they showed the first Surface off with that little clamshell or whatever you call it. I forget. It's not clamshell, but that little scorpion tail, thing there. Bezel, is that what it is? And people were really excited. But have you seen the average person? No. But maybe you're right. Maybe they're not trying to sell it to the average person.
I mean, I'm sure that in some ways they are, in the same sense that Apple, to compare against Apple also has their MacBook Pro, which they're going to update tomorrow, and that's maybe not necessarily aimed at the everyday person. It's a more expensive device. A lot of the specs are upgraded to a point to where the average person doesn't need, but it fills a category. And I think what's interesting is that Microsoft is really, and I don't know if this is the best strategy for them or not, but they're really kind of going full board into catering to that higher end and just being like, well, this is what we do. There's plenty of other partners that fill the other needs. If you're coming into the Microsoft world for hardware, for our hardware, then you want nothing but the best of what we offer. I don't know. I think it looks good. Again, it's $2,400 for this laptop, and it does some specialized things, as all Surface laptops do. But I mean, if you're a gamer, this is going to be great. You're going to get really nice frame rates for your games. You're going to get less lag if you happen to be a designer. Excellent battery life, which everyone can get behind as far as that's concerned, especially on a laptop. You want as much battery life as possible. So doing a lot of things right.
And thank you, Chickenhead, in the chat room. I was looking for the word hinge.
There we go.
A hinge.
Hinge.
Scorpion tail hinge.
Although I like scorpion tail. I was trying in my brain to remember what looked like a scorpion tail. Now I get it. Microsoft also announced an extension of its Windows holographic platform into virtual reality, unveiling partnerships with HP, Dell, Lenovo, Asus, and Acer that will bring a new breed of virtual reality headsets to market, starting at only $299. So here they are, kind of pricing on the opposite end, but of course these are partners releasing this hardware. Not only are they price competitive with other major VR players in the space, Microsoft claims the headsets will be the first to ship to consumers with inside-out 6 degrees of freedom sensors, meaning they're not going to require external cameras to track their position within a room. It's all contained within the headset, essentially. No timetable is given for the release of this hardware. And yeah, this is super cool. I mean, we saw a little bit of this at Oculus Connect. I was at Oculus Connect, and Mark Zuckerberg showed off from the stage kind of the next, and who knows, no timetable given on that either, but the next phase of Oculus Rift with, what was it called? Santa Cruz, for its inside-out, wires-free headset. So this is kind of like Microsoft's take on that, and we'll see which one gets to market first. I'm guessing the Microsoft ones will.
Yeah, I mean, this is, they talked about VR, which is the first VR from Microsoft, really. Yeah. I mean, HoloLens was AR, so they're not kind of moving into both. They showed off the Holo Tour, which was, a sort of like Google expeditions. Mm-hmm. You can go to the pyramids, or you can go, everywhere, and it's like a full experience. So that app can be used with other VR, not just their Windows 10 VR. I think most of the software is going to come out in the spring with the Windows 10 Creator Edition. I think it's exciting. I want to see the HoloLens in real life. I know you can spend $3,000 and get the developers edition now, but it would be nice to get one in the studio at this point. I think we've tried everything else but the HoloLens. Yeah,
I'm actually going to a VR event. I think it's next week or the week after. Anyways, it's a full-on VR developer event, and I'm guessing there will be HoloLens there. I'm hoping so, because I would really like that too. I want to get kind of a sense of that, that tiny little window and how much of an impact that actually has. But I think it's exciting, and I think it makes perfect sense for Microsoft to move into, not just only be dedicated to AR, which obviously they have, a lot of time ahead of others in that space with HoloLens, but as VR as well.
Microsoft also spent a fair bit of time talking about updates to Paint. Microsoft Paint. You heard that right? Paint.
Oh.
Coming next spring, users will be able to work in 3 axes and to create 3D drawings and import scans from cameras and from Minecraft. The Doodle Sketch tool will turn all your 2D doodles into 3D. Again, this is part of the Windows 10 Creators update that's coming in the spring. It's called Paint 3D. I think that 3D printing your Minecraft creations would be pretty great, like especially in a school setting. I think that would be awesome. Like they talk about using Minecraft in schools a lot, but being able to just actually physically print something that you created, I can really, I can get behind that for sure. Mm-hmm. And if you're interested, have a look at the remix3d.com site that has more information about all of this.
Yeah, they really placed an emphasis on making 3D easy, featured a lot of kids who picked this up, and in 5 minutes they've created this whole 3D masterpiece and everything. So I would love to play around with that. Creators update includes that Paint 3D. Apparently that's going to be released I'm guessing the same time what you were saying just a few minutes ago, early 2017.
And to pick up the little strays, Xbox Live Streaming got a few updates with a new gaming streaming service called Beam. Windows People is supposed to help you keep in touch with your closest family and friends in your life. They also announced a new ergonomic keyboard. And Microsoft said today that they'll pay you $650 if you trade in your MacBook for a Surface.
Ooh, man, they didn't do it. Yeah, they did.
They've done this before, and they didn't say how successful it was. But yeah.
Successful enough to try it again.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I said a little bit ago, a very good timing with Apple's big computer announcement tomorrow, because guaranteed over the next couple of weeks we're going to see a lot of comparisons between the two and who wins, who doesn't. In light of what you've seen here, do you think a OLED function row is good by comparison? How does it compare, I guess, is the question.
I think they're going to show off something more than that.
Yeah.
I think they have to. Whether they're going to show off something that size as the Surface Studio, I don't know. And they don't have that same kind of, this was a Windows event, and I don't know if they'll show off a lot of updates to Sierra or what we'll see in the future with Sierra, but maybe.
Yeah. And we will be covering that event tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific.
Yes,
I believe.
We'll be here.
We will be right here with a cup of coffee. Well, a couple of cups so that we don't have to share a cup.
Yeah.
Pony offered his 2 yen about our discussion, that was in air quotes for audio listeners, of what the photo of myself in portrait mode that was uploaded to Twitter. Just a few thoughts on that. He writes, the reason there's a difference in resolution is due to the website settings by the host. Lower resolution, say 72 dots per inch, takes up less bandwidth for the server to have to deal with when the page is accessed. Higher resolution, higher bandwidth, less of a chance that the images won't load. So, and some in chat were saying this as well when we showed the image, and we're like, why is it so it looked a little grainy or whatever? Probably is Twitter's scaling of the image so that I can serve it up quicker.
Yeah. Thank you, Pony.
It's definitely not the portrait mode. It's not Apple. It's Twitter.
Yes. And TNT's fan of the day is Brian Hill on Twitter, who says he watches TNT every morning, and this is quotes, as I see my kids and hot wife out the door, wishing them a good day.
Emphasis on hot.
Yes.
All capitalized.
And I suggested that he was pointing out how hot his wife is because she was probably the one that packed those carrots and grapes that are also in the picture in the little Ziploc bags for him.
I'm thinking hot maybe it was a typo. Maybe that coffee is really hot.
No. I don't know. Maybe if you're posting some other woman's picture on Twitter, you need to also add that your own wife is hot. I don't know.
We do not want to dissuade you from sending in your this is how I watch TNTs.
No, and yes.
We love that you did that, Brian.
Right. And I love
Thank
that
you.
you're saying on Twitter that your wife is hot. Go for it, Brian.
Yeah, go.
Am I the only one who wants to see a picture of his wife now?
Yes, you are, Kara.
No, I'm
I just
not.
believe Brian.
No comment.
Tell us how you watch or listen to TNT with or without your hot wife. Record a video, take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT and we will find it.
I just bumped my head on the mic stand because I was laughing. Ow. Back in 2010, e-commerce sites like Groupon and Living Social were all the rage. I certainly, at least at that time, never expected the daily deals trend to fizzle out as quickly as it did. Heck, Groupon turned down a $6 billion buyout offer from Google when it was flying at its highest. But people tired of daily deals sites. Nowadays, you rarely hear a thing about them. I think I'm subscribed to them. Every once in a while, I get a deal. I never open the email. Except when one buys the other, which is the case today with Groupon agreeing to buy Living Social for an undisclosed sum. They say it was immaterial. Groupon also reported its third quarter earnings with a loss of $38 million, though it increased new customers by 1.2 million, which is its highest customer acquisition in more than 3 years. So maybe there's something to this daily deals thing after all. What do you think, Megan?
Whatever I said isn't as funny as what Chickenhead21 said in the chat room was, did they have a coupon when they bought?
That's a good question. Did they get a good deal?
Yeah, they got a Groupon to buy Living Social at a good deal. Yeah, I not only did I unsubscribe to these services so long. I unsubscribed. I went there. I didn't want to have any part of them. I'm occasionally I would buy things. Even less occasionally I would actually use them. Often the businesses would go out of business before I use them. They're not great for business owners.
No,
I have some friends who tried it. They were taking so much of a percentage.
And it's almost like the more popular that deal was, the worse it was for the person on the other side. And the bargain kind of discussion around this was, well, but you're getting a lot of exposure, you're gaining a lot of customers. And I think what kind of proved itself time and time again is those are customers that would come back if you had another deal. Because that's just how they buy their things. That's how they buy their photo sessions and their tickets to that museum or whatever the case may be. And so it wasn't like you were getting return customers that were willing to, now that they know you exist, they're willing to come back all the time full price. It was just a different type of clientele, and that wasn't necessarily good for business.
Yeah, sorry. But, the deal was so small, they didn't even have to announce it in their, call. Living Social, they didn't even say how much they paid for Living Social because it was so small. It's sad.
Yeah. You're gonna be here tomorrow morning for the Apple thing, but you won't be here for TNT tomorrow.
No, I will be here in the morning, and then I'll be at PepCom in San Francisco, which will be live streaming right after TNT is over.
Excellent.
But I won't be here for TNT, sadly.
Well, we will miss you, but I'll say hi to you in the transition. In Megan's place will be the triumphant return of Ron Richards. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
We are now on Amazon's Flash Briefing, the Amazon Echo Flash Briefing. Every day you can get updates to the latest tech news and events from Leo, from Jason, from me. If you want to hear Twit's Flash Briefing, go to the settings in your app, in your Amazon Echo app, search for Twit, and then subscribe. It is a great way to start your morning. Find all the ways to subscribe to our show on whatever device you have at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me, I'm at Megan Morrone.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole. Thanks to Burke for everything that Burke does to help us out. Thanks to Kevin for editing and making us look good. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.